Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I welcome you all to our today's Global Strategic Insights webinar. For those of you who closely follow global markets, I hope this session will provide a thorough recap of the current global macroeconomic landscape. Whereas for those less familiar with the global economy, I have aimed to present the material in a clear, comprehensive manner without being overwhelming. We have a lot to cover in the next 20 to 25 minutes, so I have structured the presentation to facilitate easy understanding. You might wonder why we have selected this topic for today's discussion in the first place. So the answer lies in, the intricate web of factors and developments that are sort of interconnected and shaping the current economic environment. So moving on, just to give you a glimpse of our topics of discussion for this webinar. So I have tried to restructure the presentation in 4 basic sections, where I will be focusing initially on the present fragmentation of the geopolitical economy. And obviously, later on, I will shed light on the global macroeconomic outlook. And then we will take a deep dive into the global markets for interest rates, stocks, as well as currencies. And finally, I will present our key long-term global investment themes. So let's first try to analyze, how it all affects us, when we talk about global markets. So as you can see in this graph, I have presented 2 graphs. Like on the left-hand side, you could see the international oil prices with the local petrol price. And on the right-hand side, I have plotted interest rates. So the blue line is the short-term rate and the orange line is the 3-year rate. Whereas the bars in this chart reflect the spread of the 3-year rate over 3-month rate. And as you could see, it's been negative for quite a while. So basically, as this graph sums up that, post COVID-19 outbreak, and then we had this Russia-Ukraine conflict, we saw a sharp uptick in the oil prices, the international oil prices. And with that, our local petrol price were synced as well. This is how actually, you could see that it's been affecting us, when we talk about, what's happening in the global landscape. And likewise, in terms of rates as well, you could see the sharp uptake and what you call the monetary tightening. It precisely began around the same time. And we have seen an unprecedented level of monetary tightening since then. And finally, up until now, when the rates have started to finally cool off. So this slide simply tells that, we cannot really afford to lose sight of, what's happening globally. Interest rates and petrol price, is something which affects everyone in the economy, the household economy. And just these 2 simple charts explain the whole story in the most simplest manner. In addition to this, another very important reason why we should keep a very close eye on the global macroeconomic situation is basically understanding the fact that how our household economy is closely interconnected with the US dollar. I'm assuming you must have heard quite often that our economy is heavily import dependent. So the other day I was just, trying to prepare a list of products that we use in our daily routine life. And these all are basically imported. And that's how, the dollar movements play a critical role. So energy, oil, gas, coal, petroleum, steel and construction material. You talk about means of transport, automobiles, aeroplanes, their CKD kits, and so many other parts for appliances, different equipments like telecom, medical and electronics industries, TV and laptops. Likewise, we import medicines and especially the raw materials. And the list goes on, like rubber, tire, jute, palm oil, pulses, tea, coffee. In the agriculture side, we import DAP, the fertilizer. And in case of shortages, we often end up even importing cotton and wheat. And, animal feed, we import Australian cows, pet food. This is a long list, basically, which gives a good sense of our interdependency on, how the US dollar fluctuates in the global markets. And obviously, it has quite a say on our household economy. And lastly, why one can't afford to lose sight of the global developments is basically that so much is happening around us. You look at globally, and which I will be, sort of highlighting in the following slides. A lot is happening, both in terms of the global economic shifts as well as the geopolitics, which I will basically going to start off with in the following slides. To begin with our discussion on the fragmentation forces, which are actually on the rise these days, I have taken help from the recent IMF reports, which have spoken at length on this topic and provides a very good insight into how these forces are actually playing out. So when we talk about fragmentation, let me first just simply explain what exactly it means. So fragmentation is simply, how the world is getting divided into different camps, into different blocks, and where countries are taking unilateral decisions, which are obviously having a lot of impact on the global economy as a whole. So the following slides will give you a very good, a quick snapshot on what is actually happening. So in this slide, on the left-hand side, you could see these bars, they represent, and these are numbers basically. So in 2022, it says that 3,000 different measures were introduced in terms of restricting trade between, different countries. So these measures have actually tripled, from just 2019 to 2022. So this precisely talks about trade restrictions. On the right-hand side, this graph tells you that the multinational firms, in their earnings calls or in their earnings reports are increasingly discussing issues such as reshoring, nearshoring, friendshoring or deglobalization, which simply means that companies are not getting too comfortable working offshore and they're reconsidering and thinking about coming back to their native countries and establishing business in their native countries. All right, so moving on, this slide, presents a very interesting situation, and it simply tells how the global growth outlook has presented itself in the recent years. On the left, you could see that the trend, in the growth has been trending downwards. तो अगर आप इसका बुनियादी तौर पे जायजा लें तो झुकाव जो है वो नीचे की तरफ बेसिकली जा रहा है इन सारी इकोनॉमीज का. AE stands for advanced economies, EMDE is emerging market and developing economies, and obviously, the overall world economy, and the trend is going downwards. So on the right hand side, this chart presents case of economic scarring, जहाँ पे ग्रोथ अगर आप सिचुएशन देखें तो ग्रोथ जो प्री पैंडमिक प्रोजेक्शंस थी उससे अगर आप मुवाजना करें जो कोविड-19 के बाद अब 2023 की ग्रोथ जहाँ पे क्लोज हुई है उनमें शदीद जो है वो डाउनवर्ड डिविएशंस हैं अक्रॉस द बोर्ड. I mean, you talk about advanced economies, you talk about China, emerging markets, developing economies, and the worst impacted were the low-income developing countries. So these are some of the really hard facts जो कि इस वक्त मामलात हमें दरपेश हैं. Next. So this slide shows us, how Europe was hit by energy and food price shocks. You talk about energy or you talk about food prices, both skyrocketed when the Russia-Ukraine war began. अच्छी बात यह है कि अगर आप recent trend देख लें तो prices have corrected both energy space में भी और food prices के case में भी, which we're going to be discussing in the following slides. Next. So here you can see the war has hurt growth most in the neighboring countries. So यहाँ पे बुनियादी तौर पे आप देखें तो 2022 से लेके 2024 की क्यूमुलेटिव ग्रोथ जो है ये बार चार्ट्स प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं और बुनियादी तौर पे the blue bars represent what the IMF projections were before the war began, and this was in 2021. और अभी की जो लेटेस्ट अप्रैल 2024 की अगर आप प्रोजेक्शंस देखें तो इनफैक्ट अभी तो जुलाई की भी आ गई हैं, बट बहरहाल ये ग्राफ अभी मैं आपको प्रेजेंट कर रहा है जो अप्रैल की IMF की जो प्रोजेक्शंस थी उनको. तो इसमें भी आप देख सकते हैं कि देयर हैज बीन वेरी ऑब्वियस डिक्लाइन, अ ड्रॉप इन द ओवरऑल economic growth, and this is like pretty much the same situation across the board, whether you talk about Baltics, you talk about European Union. CESEE means Central Eastern and South Eastern Europe. तो ओवरऑल आप देख लें कि अगेन जो प्रीवियस स्लाइड पे हमने देखा, इट्स टेलिंग यू द सेम स्टोरी ओवर हियर एज वेल. ऑलराइट, नेक्स्ट. सो द डिफेंस स्पेंडिंग हैज बीन राइजिंग. सो ऑब्वियसली अगर आप देखिए कि ये जो नंबर्स हैं जो कि एज परसेंटेज ऑफ जीडीपी हैं इसमें आपको इजाफा नजर आ रहा है. तो ग्रोथ स्लो हो रही है और डिफेंस स्पेंडिंग में इजाफा हो रहा है, और ये भी आप देखें तो एक कंसिस्टेंट ट्रेंड नजर आ रहा है अक्रॉस ऑल द रीजन्स. So basically the blue chart is showing you the data for 2015 to 2019, और basically जो orange bars हैं ये आपको latest 2023 के नंबर बता रहे हैं. So that's again is a worrying sign. Next. So this slide shows you the global goods trade as percentage of GDP, और ये काफ़ी अच्छा है कि आपको historical context provide कर रही है slide. 1920 से लेके तकरीबन 2023 तक you can see for yourself जो trend है it has been increasing up until say 2010, और वहाँ से फिर सूरत हाल has been sort of little has shown resistance to go past the 50% mark. और obviously यही सारी वजूहत हैं जो अभी इसमें हम फ्रेगमेंटेशन के हवाले से डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि ये ट्रेंड इज सॉर्ट ऑफ क्या कहते हैं slowing down the growth. ऑल्दो जो स्लाइड का बुनियादी मकसद है वो ये है कि जी स्टिल ऐसा कोई मेजर डी ग्लोबलाइजेशन का ट्रेंड नजर नहीं आ रहा कि जहां आपको ग्राफ ये बता रहा होता कि जी ये ट्रेंड 50% से गिर के तकरीबन 30% या 40% हो गया. एंड ऑब्वियसली टाइम विल टेल हाउ दिस विल शेप गोइंग फॉरवर्ड. Moving on, this slide simply, presents you the case for dollar dominance. और इसके हवाले से जो एक आम अक्सर आपको शायद सुनने में आता है कि जी डॉलर जो है वो अपनी डोमिनेंस लूज कर रहा है. So this slide basically debunks those rumors. As it says that U.S. dollar retains a dominant position in global trade finance and FX reserves. Renminbi share is rising, notably in trade finance, but from a very low base. तो इसमें अगर आप ट्रेड फाइनेंस में देखें तो तकरीबन 80% ऑफ द ग्लोबल ट्रेड फाइनेंस स्टिल बीइंग डन इन यूएस डॉलर्स. लाइकवाइज अगर आप एफएक्स रिजर्व्स का कॉम्पोजिशन देख लें तो इट्स बीन प्रीटी मच क्लोज टू 60% इन द ओवरऑल अगर आप देख लें ग्लोबल स्पेस में. तो डॉलर डोमिनेंस रिमेन्स. All right, so the next two slides are extremely important now. As I was saying, the devil is always in the details. तो यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं कि although कि global trade, it's still hanging around like at 50% of the GDP, but यहाँ you will see the fault lines that are showing up now, across, you could say that between China and the US. So here basically इसमें आप देखिए तो क्रॉस बॉर्डर ट्रांजैक्शंस का डाटा है जो कि पे थोड़ी रोशनी डाली गई है. और जो चाइना ब्लॉक है, चाइना ब्लॉक से बेसिकली हियर दे मीन दोज कंट्रीज व्हिच आर लाइक सॉर्ट ऑफ क्लोजली दे डू ट्रेड विद चाइना. और उस एंगल से अगर आप देखें तो बुनियादी तौर पे जो चाइनीज करेंसी है रनमिनबी आरएमबी, उसका शेयर जो है इट इज इम्प्रूविंग इन रीसेंट टाइम्स. जबकि जो डॉलर में जो काम हो रहा है वो अगर आप देखें तो दैट्स बीन ऑन अ डिक्लाइन. स्पेसिफिकली ऑन द राइट हैंड साइड अगर आप देखें तो चाइना का जो शेयर ऑफ रनमिनबी एंड यूएसडी का काम इन फॉरेन रिलेटेड रिसीट्स एंड पेमेंट्स में, वो अगर आप देखें तो इट वाज हार्डली इट वाज 0% इन 2010 एंड दैट हैज़ नाउ इंक्रीज टू ऑलमोस्ट 50%. वेयरएज अगर आप यूएस डॉलर्स का आप एक नंबर देखें तो दैट हैज़ ड्रॉप फ्रॉम ऑलमोस्ट 80% टू 50%. So basically China as a whole is now doing those foreign related transactions mostly in their home currency. That's the point that it's trying to make. एंड इन द फॉलोइंग स्लाइड इसमें बुनियादी तौर पे फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व्स और गोल्ड रिजर्व्स जो है उसका एक ओवरऑल पिक्चर प्रेजेंट हो रही है. ऑन द लेफ्ट हैंड साइड इट टॉक्स अबाउट द चाइनीज ब्लॉक एंड द यूएस ब्लॉक के द कंट्रीज व्हिच आर मोस्टली क्लोजली टाइड विद यूएस या वर्सेस जो कि जरा चाइना से ज़्यादा करीब हैं. तो उनका अगर आप गोल्ड रिजर्व्स का रेशियो देखें एज परसेंटेज ऑफ टोटल रिजर्व्स तो वो नज़र ये आ रहा है कि जी जो चाइनीज ब्लॉक है उसमें द कंट्रीज हैव आर मोर एक्टिव इन बिल्डिंग पोजीशंस इन गोल्ड. एंड लाइकवाइज इफ यू टॉक अबाउट चाइना अलोन, तो over the course of last few years you could see that China has actually reduced their positions in the usury. अगर आप recent history में देखें तो China has actually reduced their positions in the US Treasury and agency bonds, और जबकि they're building more positions in gold. All right, so on this slide, I will just going to quickly sum up the implications of what we have discussed so far on the global economic outlook. So on trade fragmentation, basically, इसमें जो impact है वो बुनियादी तौर पे जो gains trade के through achieve हो सकते हैं in terms of economies of scale, या आप समझ लें knowledge sharing, gains from specialization, वो fragmentation की सूरत में we would end up losing. फाइनेंशियल फ्रेगमेंटेशन के केस में जो क्रॉस बॉर्डर कैपिटल फ्लोज हैं, ग्लोबल पेमेंट सिस्टम्स हैं, दैट विल सफर. इकोनॉमिक कॉस्ट्स कैन बी एक्सट्रीमली हाई बेस्ड ऑन द सिवियरिटी ऑफ द फ्रेगमेंटेशन. इसी तरह से इमर्जिंग इन डेवलपिंग इकोनॉमीज यहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा एट रिस्क हैं जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ देयर डिपेंडेंसीज ऑन एफडीआईज एंड कमोडिटीज़ एंड देयर एक्सपोजर टू फूड सिक्योरिटी रिस्क्स. एंड फाइनली जो ग्लोबल पब्लिक गुड्स हैं जिससे मुराद बुनियादी तौर पे वो अहम मौजूआत हैं जैसे क्लाइमेट चेंज है या आप समझ लें वो टेक्नोलॉजीज़ हैं कि जिससे कलेक्टिवली दुनिया जो है वो फ़ायदेमंद हो सकती है, वो फ्रेगमेंटेशन के केस में उसकी ग्रोथ में भी आप समझिए इट विल जस्ट गोना सफ़र अ लॉट. सो इन टोटलिटी द सिचुएशन वेयर वी आर हेडिंग इज़ एक्सट्रीमली चैलेंजिंग. और फाइनली इसमें एक सवाल ये पैदा होता है कि देन व्हाट आर द सॉल्यूशंस, व्हाट शुड बी द गो अहेड, व्हाट शुड बी द सिल्वर लाइनिंग बेसिकली इन दिस केस. तो बुनियादी तौर पे अगर आप देखें तो द कोर चैलेंज एट द मोमेंट इज टू वर्क टुवर्ड्स a common goal, a unified objective, which requires maintaining open communication channels, staying actively engaged, and minimizing the negative impacts of unilateral policy decisions. However, when we look at the current global landscape, the way these different countries are basically doing business, seems far from this ideal. In Europe and Middle East, the situation does not resemble the Cold War as often referenced by IMF in their recent publications. Instead, we are witnessing a direct confrontation between NATO and Russia in the Ukraine conflict, and a significant stalemate in the Middle East, which is deeply concerning. And we had highlighted this particular point in our investment outlook for this year as well. Moving on, in this context, Ukraine, there was a surprise attack into Russia, which began on August 6th, and which was extremely bold and daring. And what experts are saying that it could completely change the narrative of the war. So this is also something like a gamble, which could go really wrong and could really pose some serious risks going forward. Since the start of this operation on the morning of August 6th, Russia has lost control of at least 350 square kilometers of its territory, and scores of its soldiers have been killed or captured. So this is sort of really escalating at the moment. This was just a recent cover story on The Economist, published on August 17th. You can see basically Economist has covered the nuclear threat under this topic, where it says that the superpower faces more adversaries, new technologies, and less confident allies. This gives you a sort of a sense of the overall environment. All right, next, these cartoons depict the overall geopolitical ambiance, where, for instance, China often comes into news on their activities in the South China Sea. Whereas अगर आप जो दूसरा कार्टून है वो it's basically sort of showing कि जो confrontation है जो हमेशा साल से चलती आ रही है, वो भी जदीद दौर के सारे तकाजे वहाँ भी पूरे हो रहे हैं in terms of the technology. Finally, so 2024 has been the super global election year. शायद ही किसी साल इतने elections हमारी माजी में हुए होंगे जितने साल हुए हैं. And they say that 7 out of the 10 most populous countries जो हैं उनके यहाँ scheduled थे elections this year. अब इसमें मामला ये है कि ये भी एक reason बन रही है जो कि element of uncertainty दे रही है towards the overall geopolitics. Because change is like, it's always good, but too much of something is also often is creates or adds to uncertainty. So that is something I think आप समझिए जो next 12 months हैं वो भी इस हवाले से काफी अहम रहेंगे because काफी सारी जगहों पे there are new governments and it will take some time to exactly see कि क्या direction setting रह रही है in मुख्तलिफ countries में. All right, so after having presented to you the case for fragmentation या जो एक divided overall economies पर दुनिया की हुई है, let's move to our discussion on the core macroeconomic situation. All right, to start off our discussion in this regard, first things first, September 18th is the US Fed's next meeting. And in his most recent speech on August 23rd, the Fed chair made a revealing comment when he stated that the job market is looser than it was in 2019, a period when the Fed was actually cutting rates down to 1.75%. So basically, this has solidified the market expectations of an interest rate cut in the next policy decision meeting, where the probability of a reduction has shot up to nearly 100%. तकरीबन 25 basis to 50 basis का cut जो है almost market इस वक्त expect कर रही है. Additionally, the markets are now pricing almost like 2 cuts for the Bank of England, 3 for the European Central Bank, and 4, yes, that's 4 for the Fed by year end. And as a result, the DXY dollar index has almost hit a 13-month low, enduring a 5-week losing streak as rate differentials turn against the dollar, particularly against the yen. And this shift obviously goes really well for the dollar as well as the silver. So this graph, as you could see, shows you that the US inflation, the headline number as well as the core inflation number has really cooled off in the recent months. And more interestingly, as I was referring to his speech, the US Fed speech on the August 23rd, he referred to the labor market situation. So as you could see in this graph on the right, that when this rate was almost like equivalent to 4% last time, it was when the US Fed was actually cutting rates. And when you look at what the situation is at the moment, the rates extremely high. So they are on almost, you could say, more than tripled, almost more than 3 times levels versus what they were when the unemployment number was close to the same as it is at the moment. So that makes a clear case for Fed rate cuts going forward. This gives you a quick snapshot of the most recent central bank decisions so far in 2024. As you could see, a lot of banks, central banks, have initiated or they have begun their monetary easing cycle. Similar to almost Pakistan, you could see we have already seen 2 rate cuts of 100 basis points each. However, there have been few exceptions, and in that, I would like to specifically discuss Japan, which surprisingly made a rate hike of around 25 basis earlier in August. All right, so this slide basically gives you a sense of how the U.S. economy is doing, in addition to a specific news item from the China as well. Overall, अगर आप देखिए तो U.S. का जो almost overall federal budget deficit है, it has now shot up to almost $2 trillion. And एक जो criticism US Fed chair पे रहा है lately कि he has been quite careful or he has sort of underestimated inflation, जो एक transitory का word इतना इस्तेमाल रहा in the global markets, तो उसकी वजह से he has been at the moment now become quite cautious कि जी ये inflation again overshoot ना कर जाए. So he has been quite late in terms of his response कि जी जहाँ थोड़ा सा फेड रेट कट हो जाना चाहिए था वो अभी तक नहीं हुआ है, जिसकी वजह से इकोनॉमी सफ़र कर रही है, और स्पेशली जो हाउस होल्ड इकोनॉमी है उसका हाल जो है वो काफ़ी इस वक्त अच्छा नहीं है. तो अब एज द ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी अगर आप देखें एजेस टुवर्ड्स अ सिंक्रोनाइज्ड डाउनटर्न, इट वोंट बी टू सरप्राइजिंग टू सी द फेड कंपेल्ड टू ड्रास्टिकली रिड्यूस रेट्स, पोटेंशियली वीकनिंग द यूएस डॉलर, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली जब रेट्स कम होंगे तो उसका इम्पैक्ट यूएस डॉलर पे नेचुरली होगा, और जो कि सोफार अभी लेटली आ भी रहा है. इस पर हम थोड़ा ही आगे की कुछ स्लाइडों पर रोशनी भी डालेंगे. तो ऑब्वियसली उसके कुछ रेपरकशंस इस तरह से हमें देखने को मिल सकते हैं कि इट कुड बी इन माय पर्सनल ओपिनियन कुड बी अ सीरियस हेडविंड्स फॉर द ओवरऑल गल्फ रीजन, कि जहाँ आप देख लें कि इन टर्म्स ऑफ द डिक्लाइन इन द यूएस फेड रेट्स, तो वहाँ पे भी यू वुड सी फॉलिंग बैंक डिपॉजिट रेट्स, और एक जो ओवरऑल स्लोइंग ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी है, इट कुड स्ट्रेन फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स इन द जीसीसी एरिया एज वेल. अच्छा, इसी तरह से अगर आप थोड़ा और इकोनॉमी का ओवरऑल डाटा देखें तो आईएसएम मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडेक्स आया है 46, व्हिच इज नॉट लाइक अ गुड रीडिंग एट ऑल. ग्रोइंग डिफॉल्ट्स जो हैं, लाइकवाइज दे हैव बीन ग्रोइंग डिफॉल्ट्स इन द ऑलमोस्ट 1.7 ट्रिलियन प्राइवेट सेक्टर क्रेडिट मार्केट, एंड फाइनेंशियल डिस्ट्रेस जो है अक्रॉस ऑटो एंड स्टूडेंट लोन्स, वो भी उस हवाले से भी काफ़ी खबरें जो हैं वो गर्म हैं. Consumer spending, which is almost like 70% of the economy of the US economy, has stalled. And while I was just reading somewhere कि the food stamps की usage है, that has actually tripled in lately. So despite these troubling signs, the Fed chair, उनका जो optimism है for soft landing seems at odds with जो data इस वक्त सामने आ रहा है on declining retail sales. आप देख लें excess inventories हैं, और even जो CEOs की भी जो मसला, अगर आप earnings reports के एंगल से अगर आप देखें तो वहाँ भी बहुत कोई ज़्यादा optimism जो है उसका इजहार नहीं हो रहा है lately. इसी तरह से जब हम चाइना की बात कर लें तो ओवर देयर एक जो बात अभी इस वक्त की जा रही है वो ये है कि जो रोल चाइना ने प्ले किया इन 2009 क्राइसिस, इट कैन नॉट प्ले दैट रोल एनी मोर. द $18 ट्रिलियन चाइनीज इकोनॉमी स्ट्रगलिंग विद अ मैसिव प्रॉपर्टी मार्केट कोलैप्स, जिसका आप आजकल खबरों में सुन रहे होते होंगे. इसी तरह से एक उनका जो शैडो बैंकिंग क्राइसिस है वो भी मुस्तकिल एक चल रहा है काफ़ी अर्से से. In addition to that, they've got almost like 20 trillion deficit in provincial finances. तो उस हवाले से ओवरऑल जो चाइनीज़ की भी इकोनॉमी की भी जो सूरत हाल है, that is very challenging. With almost like $3.2 trillion in offshore bonds due by the end of 2024 and rising trade tensions and tariffs, China is poised to export deflation to its Asian neighbors. Moving on, ignorance is bliss. Relax, the economic numbers are only bad if you understand them. So this was just like on a lighter note, it was just this cartoon. I really enjoyed viewing. And finally, ये IMF की एक जो ग्लोबल इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ आउटलुक है, दिस स्लाइड गिव्स यू अ ओवरऑल स्नैपशॉट. अब इसके अंदर जो जो अहम चीज़ है देखने के लिए, जो थोड़ी सी इसके अंदर आई थिंक एक डिस्टॉर्शन महसूस होती है इन IMF प्रोजेक्शंस, वो ये है कि अगर आप 2025 में देखें तो थोड़ा सा जो नंबर है वो बेरिश आ रहा है, वेयर दे आर एक्सपेक्टिंग अ रिलेटिवली लोअर ग्रोथ vis-a-vis what their expectations are for this year. 2.6 for this year versus 1.9 for next year. उसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में अगर आप ओवरऑल नंबर्स को देखें, जहाँ चाइना एज वी सेड के स्ट्रगलिंग, वहाँ भी थोड़ी सी ग्रोथ स्लो डाउन है. इंडिया में भी ग्रोथ स्लो डाउन आ रही है. Emerging markets almost like flattish or no change. Japan, according to IMF, they're expecting some improvement in 2025. However, जो distortion what I was referring to is regarding the higher growth numbers that IMF is expecting for the GCC and the Middle East region. And this sort of goes against what I was just saying in the previous slide कि जो इस वक्त US इकोनॉमी का आउटलुक बन रहा है वो थोड़ा सा चैलेंजिंग साबित हो सकता है for the overall GCC markets. Barring any say spike in the international oil prices due to say any major conflict, अल्लाह ना करे अगर कोई ऐसी सूरत हाल होती है, तो उस केस में जो क्रूड ऑयल का जो आउटलुक है गिवन द जो इस वक्त ओवरऑल ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी है, वो probably it could face a similar fate to the copper's 20% drop जो lately अभी हुआ है, and obviously which is basically a clear sign कि जी जो global economic outlook है वो काफ़ी इस वक्त is quite soft, and in that basically lingering slowdown could end up reducing FDI flows and bank credit flows to GCC, which is basically would be a net negative for both the financial and the real estate markets, much like in 2009 for the Middle East region. All right, so let's begin with the most happening segment of the overall markets, and that is gold. I think this is one of the commodities जो कि काफ़ी frequently सब follow भी कर रहे होते हैं, ज़ुबानी भी हमें इसकी prices का idea होता है. तो इसमें as you could see the past 12 months जो कि इस price में हमने plot किया हुआ है इसकी prices को, तो ये this has been a consistent bull run. और इसकी जो वजह है बुनियादी तौर पे it is basically reflecting against जो central banking purchases हैं और overall demand जो gold की है that has been consistently going up, because obviously it is considered as a safe haven asset due to all the geopolitical risk and the fragmentation talk that we have already done. So this is a true reflection of that whole story. Likewise right hand side पे हमने copper भी plot कर दिया है आपके लिए, और उसमें you could see कि जो copper to gold ratio है उसमें बड़ा steep decline आया है. तो copper क्योंकि एक industrial commodity and it is used widespread across different industries, so it is sort of a symbol for industrial activity. It's a symbol for economic growth. तो when you could see कि जो कॉपर की परफॉर्मेंस है it is quite soft vis-a-vis गोल्ड जो कि जिसमें काफ़ी हमें शदीद तेज़ी दिखने में आ रही है, that is again giving you a clear signal कि जो मार्केट्स जिस तरह से रीड कर रही हैं ग्लोबल आउटलुक को, वो कोई बहुत ज़्यादा तेज़ी वाला सिनारियो जो है नहीं पेश हो रहा इस सूरत हाल में. Okay, moving on, let's now discuss another very important aspect, which is basically US vis-a-vis Japan, both in terms of their interest rates and what has lately happened in their currencies. So Japan has most recently surprised the markets by making a 25 basis increase, which I had shown you in one of our previous slides, because Japan has been an exception. और इसके बरक्स अगर आप लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे यूएस गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड यील्ड का ट्रेंड देखें तो वो तो कंसिस्टेंटली एक डिक्लाइन का शिकार है, और स्पेशली अगर आप ये शेडेड एरिया देख लें कि जहां वी सॉ क्लियर डिप, एंड दिस वाज सम टाइम इन द फर्स्ट वीक ऑफ अगस्त, एंड दिस वाज राइट आफ्टर चेयर पावल्स प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस के, जहां उन्होंने उस बात की निशानदेही जो कि दोबारा भी की अभी जैक्सन होल जो इनकी स्पीच थी, कि जहां now he has sort of made a statements regarding कि जी अब the rates are finally, जो rate cuts हैं they are finally coming. तो ये conflicting scenario रहा है. All right, so this unexpected 25 basis rate hike by the Bank of Japan has resulted in the unwinding of the yen carry trade, जिसके बारे में आप लोग वालेबन काफ़ी सुन भी रहे होंगे अखबारात में आजकल. और carry trade, just for those of you who are not familiar with this concept, is basically a trade where an investor borrows in a low interest currency and invest in a higher return ones. However, इसका एक drawback है, वो ये है कि these trades can quickly evaporate or quickly collapse, and that's why they are sort of akin to what they call picking up pennies in front of the steamroller, जो कि this cartoon on the top right hand side is actually depicting, which basically implies that you go for short-term gains, but you put yourself at risk of significant losses actually. So global market experts say that the central banks and regulators, they should consider proactively collecting and disclosing detailed data on these foreign exchange swap markets to prevent any such future crises. So basically greater transparency could help analysts and investors understand these trades risks and crowded nature before a significant problem arises. All right, so this slide provides you a sense of what's happening in the commodities market. ये 5-year price charts हैं, both on the left and the right. On the left, it's more like a broader index, a broader commodity index, which is called the Bloomberg Commodity Index. So that is showing you कि it is basically softening, and a very clear trend जो हमें नजर आ रहा है. Interestingly, इस index में, if I tell you कि जो gold का weight है, ये जो precious metals हैं, it's almost like 1/5. So despite gold's phenomenal performance, you could see the overall commodity index जो है उसका trend जो है it's trending downwards basically. Likewise, अगर आप agriculture commodities index देख लें तो वहाँ जो trend है वो मज़ीद strong है, and thanks to better crops और जो better इस वक्त agriculture की global सूरत हाल हम देख रहे हैं, तो इसमें मज़ीद गिरावट आई है in the recent days. And that's obviously is a good news and bodes well for the inflation outlook as well overall. And at the same time also reflects जो global economic growth है उसका भी एक perspective आपको इन charts को देख के मिल जाता है. All right, now let's step into the global equity markets. And here you see some quite decent performance. This is basically a 5-year history. Both charts on the left and the right, basically MSCI indices. On the left, you could see US, Japan, and Euro. Euro has been a bit of a laggard vis-a-vis Japan and US. Whereas on the right-hand side, you could see one market that actually is standing way behind the curve is China. So it's down 15%. And these are, mind you, these are local currency returns. Whereas the emerging markets as a whole, ex-China has been up 75%, GCC is up 43%, and frontier markets have returned 34%. So these are total returns we are talking about in the last 5 years. So here you could clearly see that the outperformers have been the more advanced markets, the much larger, bigger markets like US and Japan. And even like if you compare Euro 64% returns comes much higher than the frontier markets and the GCC markets. Over here, we have shown equity market correlations, and this is basically our own KC100 correlation with these global markets for the last 5 years. And interestingly, you could see that ours is most correlated with the emerging markets ex-China, and the next comes frontier market, and then it's US. And we are, the correlation is the lowest with Japan, which is at around almost 0.26. With China is around 0.3. So basically, the idea of showing this particular sort of data is just to give you a sense that generally, our local stocks have shown performance more in sync with the emerging markets, which is, I believe one of the reasons is that Pakistan is a quite widely covered market, although it is now part of the frontier space, but our correlation stands much higher with the emerging markets. All right, so before sort of going into our overall long-term key themes, the message that we could get from these charts is basically that, again, looking at the commodities, the bonds, and where the equity valuations are at the moment, which are quite high in the development markets, overall, it makes case for a shift, a tactical shift, or maybe a strategic shift rather, from equities to global bonds, specifically US 10-year Treasury, which is still trading close to almost 4% and offers a lot of room for capital gains. And maybe, you never know, it could give you sort of a stock market sort of returns in the next 12 months. And whereas in case of emerging market economies, I think these markets will stay stronger going forward as well, given the capital outflows that we could expect out from the developed markets. Having presented to you our macroeconomic and geopolitical outlook, we would want to take having presented to you the underlying geopolitical and macroeconomic outlook, let's take a pause over here and explore some key long-term global investment themes that could end up proving to be maybe silver lining or some great opportunities for investors in the next maybe 10 years or so. Our first theme is environmental sustainability, and where we believe that investing in this area is crucial as the world shifts towards greener energy and sustainable practices. This theme offers long-term growth potential as global regulations and consumer preferences increasingly favor eco-friendly solutions. Water and food security, another very important area as populations grow and climate change impacts resources, securing water and food supplies will be vital. Investments in the sector are not just about profitability, but about ensuring the survival and prosperity of future generations. Defense and aerospace. So the evolving geopolitical landscape drives demand in the defense and aerospace sectors. Innovations in this area are essential for national security and are likely to see continued investment growth. Biotech and pharma. This particular sector remains at the forefront of addressing global health challenges. Ongoing research and development in these areas present significant opportunities for transformative investments. AI, robotics. Well, this particular area is basically redefining industries from manufacturing to healthcare, and investing in these technologies offer a chance to capitalize on the ongoing digital transformation shaping the future economy. And lastly, financial inclusion. Now, expanding financial services to underserved populations is a key driver of global economic growth. And this theme not only supports social equity, but also opens up new markets and opportunities for innovation. Now, having said that, the key point is that all these themes revolve around the core principle of fostering a knowledge economy. And innovation in these areas requires continuous learning and adaptation, underscoring the importance of cultivating a mindset that prioritizes gaining and applying knowledge to drive future growth. Say, for instance, in global water demand is projected to exceed supply by 40% by 2030. But disruptive technologies are emerging to address this challenge. Internet of Things devices and AI technologies are already reducing water waste in agriculture, which accounts for over 70% of global water use. Smart metering and leakage prevention systems in homes have cut water consumption by one third, and scaling these technologies could lead to significant water savings. Well, that's all from my end. I hope I was able to do justice with the overall topic. If you have any questions or want tailored advice, you can write to us at ir@jsil.com or call us directly at 0800 00887. Feel free to forward to me, any questions that you have regarding this topic, and we would be willing to address those areas for you. Thank you.